Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to Two Nerds in a Lab. My name is Hanil Gali.
And I'm Mehdi, and we'll be your host for tonight.
All right, and we are both Cisco SEs, and we both engineers and nerds. And today we're gonna talk to you about Meraki segmentations. We got some exciting stuff here for you, so stay tuned. We're gonna have this. This is our first series of videos. Stay tuned, and Two Nerds in a Lab. Eventually, it's going to increase to become more nerds in labs, and we're gonna have we hosting some of our rock star engineer here to talk about specific topics. So today we're going to talk about segmentations. And Mehdi, we want to know like what is the problems now with segmentations and IP addresses? And I used to work back then with a partner, and I log in into a firewall, and just tons of ACLs and firewall rules. What do you think of that problem?
So I think as networks got distributed, honey, it became more and more complicated to figure out how to assign the right policies to the devices. So what happens when they roam? As they go from one place to another site, to another part of the network, it was becoming increasingly difficult to figure out this whole construct based on ACLs. So what really needed to happen as security technologies and network technologies evolved is why can't we write a contract? Why can't we fingerprint who you are and what you are, and why can't we write a contract? That's been very complicated to do uniformly across any site, any network in an organization. And with the Meraki platform, we've taken care of all of that automation. There is no heavy lifting of building appliances on the back end for automation. It is all built into the software-defined platform. And then we can consume that via SaaS, and then we can write those contracts and policies and assign them to the users and devices as they get detected and get on the network.
I like that. I like that. So when you say contract, that's kind of a new term. So for the people who may not know what the contract is, so the contract is basically a combination of security features or security that we want to apply for a specific user or specific device in a network, right?
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. So a contract, especially for segmentation, is all of the different settings we want to apply to that user and device, whether they are security appliance settings, whether they're wireless settings, whether they're switchboard settings. We want to wrap all of that into a policy. In the Meraki world, there's a couple different ways to do it. We want to wrap all of those intentions into a group of policies and make that the contract for that user or the device.
All right, perfect. So that's awesome. And by the way, today we decide to just go with the builder theme. So
yeah,
wear the hat, I wear the because we're gonna show you really cool stuff. So let's get into it. So here we are. So here's the main problem, right? Like again, people and for the longest, and I'm sure you got more time in IT than me, but definitely it's interesting that is always an IP address and I have to block. And a user will come in, a new person come into the organization, new firewall rules, new objects being created. It's just a lot of overhead for the IT team. And this is kind of show us that idea of here we go, we trying to just deny and permit, right? And that's where it could be the problem. So what we got here in this slide here?
So this is showing you how this problem keeps multiplying exponentially with scale. And we know a lot of our sites are becoming distributed. And with what's happening now with working from home, what if you needed to build a secure pod for a teleworker at home? Now you have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these distributed secure network stacks. And that problem of the ACL and defining the segmentation rules is exponentially expanding. The other thing, honey, that's important, and it was really hard to do is, let's say I don't mind doing this. Like you said, I have the time. I like to do the block and tackle, the dirty work in the trenches. The problem is repeatability. There's more opportunity for that template and the changes and the mistakes that can go along with that. What if we need to make a quick change to all of those ACLs. That's again another box by box by box proposition. As you see here, extrapolate this to hundreds and thousands of things that we need to touch. So that's exactly what this is showing, and why it's been one of the hard things to bring to deployment environments easily in the past.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And consistency. We build a policy and then move it to another site, and it's a problem. So we're going to show you today how this is done. And really here today, we are going to walk you through, there's two solutions to this problem. There is Meraki Group Policies, and there is Adaptive Policy, or SGTs, Cisco SGTs. Today, we're going to walk you through the Meraki Group Policy, a feature that is already there. Actually, Mehdi, I've been talking to customers about group policies, and I found out is not a lot of people actually using it. Is that the same thing for you?
Yeah, a lot of folks really don't venture far enough into the dashboard to look at the group policy constructs and kind of start using them in their day-to-day workflows or design workflows or deployment workflows. And again, we felt like with security being so empirical right now, especially with working from home and distributed networks, that's a really good place to start. And it's been baked into the architecture of the platform from very early on. And it's basically across all of the major network components. AP, switches, firewalls, they all understand the construct of group policies.
Oh, man. All right. So this has been on the dashboard since the beginning of Meraki. And I don't think as much as it's been advertised or talked about as a huge feature. So today we want to show you that how this can simplify and solve a problem that people talk about segmentations and doing VLANs on the switches, on wireless, or doing on a firewall, right? How this could be a really easy. And here, this shows you from that problem of consistency. Now you build that policy once. You could send that over API. You can send that over configuration templates. It's always going to be the same policy all over your networks. And think about it, as Mehdi said, is if it's work from home, now you have all of those policy built. Or IoT, which actually Mehdi is going to show you in a bit here. With IoT devices, how can you dynamically even assign it? So today, we're going to show you a simple static assignment of group policy, but also using wireless iPSK, how you can dynamically assigning it to also IoT devices that they can do a pre-share key or whatnot. But also stay tuned. We're going to show other ways of how you can dynamically assign this with radius, which is actually super powerful at that point. All right. Ready, Mehdi? You want to build stuff?
Let's do it. So let me grab the ball, and I'm going to share my desktop.
All right, go for it.
All right, so while we're on the topic of segmentation and security, why not show you what's been launched in Cisco Live? In fact, what you're looking at is me not even directly having the ability to log into my development sandbox anymore. And I actually have to go through SecureX. We launched this at Cisco Live. As you see here, I now directly log in securely into the Meraki platform by using SecureX. The two are linked together. As you'll see here in just a second, all of my security products and my SaaS-delivered security platforms are in the same spot as my SaaS-delivered full-stack network platform, and they're all linked together. Stay tuned to the series. We will be covering more of the automation and cross-fabric integration as we progress through the series. So here we go.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited for this. So
yeah, this is evolving very quickly, and it's a huge differentiator for the world we live in now. Distributed networks. The bad guys know all the intellectual property is no longer behind a massive firewall at a corporate site. So it's even more critical to have these multi-fabric integrations between the network and security automated, and we'll be showing you that soon. So here we're going to jump into the network that I'm on this WebEx. So I'm going to jump into that, for example. This is what I'm attached to on wireless. One of the things you'll see is that it shows me all of my wired and wireless clients, that they're already there in the dashboard. And what I can do is I can show you which clients that we're going to be taking a look at. So right here, we're going to be focusing on this iPhone, for example. So let me show you what the group policies look like and what they are. So we're going to pull up the group policy. You'll find that at any of your locations under the network-wide, you'll see a category for group policies. When you go in there, you'll see what I've defined here for some testing. I've got guests as a role. I've got compromised devices. I've got contractors, so on and so forth. So if I jump into one of these, you can see the collection of settings that we were mentioning. And by the way, in the Meraki Dashboard, one of the things that the product team, since the beginning, the DNA of the platform, that they still adhere to it, we want every administrator, architect, engineer with as many as 5 to 10 clicks at most, have as much situational awareness as possible. Group policies are security constructs. I need to know exactly if they're being applied and to how many devices. Without doing anything else, I can see here immediately that I'm in fact applying it to 2 clients, and I can pull them up if I click there.
And yeah, and if you just hover over that again, you did see there's 3 ways: the VIA dashboard, 802.1x. So that's how we're going to show you actually in this series of group policies how you could dynamically assign this. We'll show you configurations and samples.
Yeah, so this is one I built for a contractor visitor. Again, my buddies, when they used to come over to my house, I would put them on this contractor view if they wanted to get on wireless to test the data, make sure it's working. We actually do validate anything we show you. It is real data. For now, they're not able to come over. But as you see here, this is those group of settings that we put in there that then create the contract that now can be applied uniformly no matter where they go. You can take this policy and have that defined so that it's identical no matter where the devices go. You don't need to touch the devices every time. So as you see here, I don't want contractors to ever use my network outside of 9 to 5. And I've specified that on business days, so not on weekends. I can certainly change that. There's no bandwidth. On the bandwidth side of things, I'm not giving them unlimited bandwidth. They're getting 10 megs, just as an example. Here on the layer 3 firewall, the MXs understand this. Those are the UTM multi-role firewall and SD-WAN appliances. The switches understand ACLs and the wireless understands ACL. I simply instructed not to talk to these 2 VLANs. So that's what you see right here, and then so on and so forth. Now, you can have multiple group policies. I'll show you another example for, say, compromised device, a compromised device here. So what happens if the network, in conjunction being integrated to Talos, you saw me integrated to SecureX, which is the Talos platform. What if the network, via any number of things, which we will be covering in the future, detects an anomaly in the device? I can have it then even dynamically change the policy to a compromised device. As you see, the same methodology, only 9 to 5, so they can maybe go talk to the help desk and get the device cleaned up. They are no longer allowed to talk to any RFC 1918 internal IPs. I only want them to go see the help desk, and I only want them to get to the OS of their device to update the patches, maybe get the security tools we have from Talos or from the internet side of things. So I want to sandbox them. I can block them from a lot of layer 7 applications while they're compromised, and I can tag them to a specific sandbox VLAN, and I can basically make it as strict as possible. One thing you notice here, we mentioned integrating with the Talos platform. As you see here, not only these contracts understand Meraki security features, they also understand Cisco Talos fabric features that have already been linked between the 2 platforms. So as you see here, I gave them the contract for how strict I want the network to be, but because I'm stitched into Talos, I can reach out and pull in a compromised device umbrella policy. That's very, very powerful. And the important piece with that is, if it was one of our corporate devices and they got convicted by Talos that they did something bad, this compromise policy will now follow them no matter where they go. So if we're worried about any kind of intellectual property getting accessed or anything like that, we can immediately put a strict policy on them that says they no longer can go to maybe our Office 365 suite while they're compromised. What if they leave my network? I wanted to make sure the contract followed them.
I think for a second here, if we just pause, I think this is big, really. Like from my previous experiences, is like it's not as easy to just build that policy. Right now, we didn't do anything except we build the policy.
Yeah.
And from here, you can start automating this, and you could start moving users from different policy to different policy based on their posture.
Yeah.
I think that's super relevant to people working from home, or even if you thinking of now people back in the office, how can we get that kind of automation and simplicity really matters.
Yeah. So why don't we look at what it does automatically once it sees the device and figures out that that policy needs to be set. As you see right here, everything in the dashboard that you can look at, we call them flex tables. Here you can see there's a plus sign. I've included all of the important things. There's more to include, but any of the important things that I use all the time, I've included here. What I want to point out here is this policy column. You can see that everything is normal. However, a few of them have a little different designation. This one's been set to non-compliant. These other ones are set to custom. And now we'll take a look at one of these clients here. So let's take a look at this guy. For example, this is one of my Linux distributions that I run off of a USB for testing. If you notice here, you see the policy is custom. And if I look at details, it tells me exactly what's going on. There's policies assigned to me, and these are the rules that are being applied based on my network settings and how I run the network. As you can see, the contractor group is assigned to me, and you see all of those settings that we showed you a minute ago, they automatically get enforced on this device no matter where it goes in this network, or if it goes to another site as soon as it gets the same policy reapplied.
Sweet. So you did assign this per SSID, or how did you assign this? Is statically?
So these two were assigned statically because these are USB distros. What I did is I went here and I said when they get on this SSID, they need to be in the contractor mode. But stay tuned, because part 2 and part 3 of this series is going to talk about how we automate and dynamically give you the hooks to do that. We'll show you one dynamic way today for IoT, but stay tuned on part 2 and part 3 so you can see more of that. So let me show you how you can start dynamically making this happen a little bit. So if I pull this up, this is where I do all of the validation for our security and for the Meraki team on testing of IoT workflows. As you notice here, you have devices in 2 different VLANs. One of them is in the 253, and the other one is in the 254. And by the way, these have been assigned these VLANs dynamically. So these are all Wi-Fi. So what they are, they're IoT Wise cams, they're Alexas, they are any of my Apple TV, anything that's IoT in my household will go to the secure IoT sandbox, this network. It will get automated on how it joins this network. So we showed you the group policies. They are defined here. Just as a reference, we'll show that again. As you see here, you have your IoT cameras and IoT media. I want you to focus on these two. One's going to VLAN 23, one's going to VLAN 24, and there are settings in there, just like we showed you a minute ago, for other parameters. So how are they dynamically getting assigned without me having to do a lot of work? And again, everything we've shown you, it's a complex problem to solve. And what we set out to do is to remove the complexity so you can actually operationalize segmentation contracts. So if I look at my SSID, these are wireless. When I go under access control, and if I pull up my IoT SSID, you'll notice that I'm using iPSK without radius. This is for my sandbox validation. I don't have physically any more power to power up an ICE server. I'm short on literally power of the house. So I'm leveraging native automation. The Meraki platform gives you many avenues of automation. One of the easiest, least complex avenues of automation is what we built in the dashboard. So as you see here, I can take the same SSID, and as I give them a distinct password, they will automatically grab the correct group policy. That is all I had to do. I'll take it a step further. I don't want any of my normal device OSs to get on. So I can simply instruct the AP, because it is NBAR enabled, it is AVC, application visibility, and device fingerprint enabled natively, again, natively. It is allowing me to block any of my OSs that I don't want to get on this network. As you see, I'm blocking Android, iPhones, iPads, Nooks, and Windows Phone.
Exactly.
This is an example. And there's a whole list of it, right?
Yeah, here what Mehdi is actually showing us is interesting, because I've seen customers who have many SSIDs to cover that perspective of, like, I want an SSID for devices ABC and SSID for another devices. Now you simplifying that is by having different pre-share keys for those devices don't understand actually 802.1x. It's very simple. Assign the pre-share key, like IoT devices that they have at home. Now they have different VLAN segmentations.
Yeah.
Easy. Yep.
Very straightforward. There's another actually really good use case for this is I have a ton of customers that have very low criticality IoT devices. While they have .1x radius and authentication and authorization, a lot of these less critical devices, they just want them fingerprinted quickly and put in a sandbox, just like we showed you. For them, they're leveraging this methodology for those not security critical IoT devices, IP clocks. What we showed you here, streaming for a lobby TV. They want to preserve their WAN pipes or SD-WAN and not fill it up full of chatter that goes back and forth to a .1x backend. So we can natively fork them off and handle them this way, much less load on a WAN link, and it's done for you.
Many
I'm going to save here.
Yeah, many clients on the network for sure.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to the client view and show you one more thing. And what you'll see here now is if I pull up any of these, you can see now what policy they've been given. And if you notice, it has done it automatically as if we had a full .1x infrastructure running, but we natively did some automation for you in the dashboard. So you don't have to fully backhaul it to a .1x or launch a .1x validator at that site if it's a light, very lean site. But again, the policies will follow any of your organization networks anywhere you want it with that same strategy.
That's sweet. That's super sweet. Like now we went from no policy, created group policy, we build up the settings, what firewall rules you want to block, speed, bandwidth, anything that you want to do. And now without even configuring a radius server, and we're going to show you actually with radius server eventually in this series, but this is the simplest way to enable that and have simple segmentations and whatnot. So I love it.
Yeah, I'm going to show you one last thing here. If you click the details of how you arrived there, how did the platform do this for you? I want to point something out that's very important. You see two sections here, and that's critical because as you notice in the group policy that we showed you, you had the option to either take the default of that network or override it with distinct security needs for your contract. We showed them to you side by side. If you notice right here, it's showing you anything that I've applied via the the group policy and anything that's the native settings that I set on the SSID. So that's pretty powerful in terms of troubleshooting and debugging. These are the things that are really, really hard to decipher, and we've tried to take your metadata and parse through it and actually do the heavy lifting as you configure it, as you automate pushing that out throughout your organization, especially you think work from home, troubleshooting it and understanding what's happening. So we've tried to accommodate all that, and all of this automation is expanding over time.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Just a snippet of phase one. Stay tuned for part 2 and part 3. We're going to touch on some of the automation and integrating with the security fabric more and showing you how SGTs and adaptive policy accomplish that.
I love it. I love it. Stay tuned. Now this could be automation, API, all the software developer geniuses there. You can take this, automate it the way you want it with other third-party solutions that you have in-house, and the sky's the limit. So with that, we're going to leave you here and stay tuned for the next episode. 2 Nerds in a Lab. Thank you, Mehdi.
Thank you, guys.